The people are defending something that should not be defended, that should be actually criticized, and actually have the animators, these dumbass studios, to learn from their mistakes.
Oh god, this is horrible. Am I sure glad I never stooped so low by making a cartoon community rant. You'd have to be pretty desperate to do something like that. You know what I hate? The cartoon community. They're all just a bunch of college dropouts in their mid-20s who have nothing better to do than sit at home and rant about children's shows on the internet. Who would do something like that? They think they're so slick with their cartoon rants on the internet. But do you want to know what I really hate about them? Well, it's that the... Wait, why do people hate this community again? I don't think I really talk about this much, but I love animation. And when you do nothing but watch gaming videos on YouTube all day, you eventually start to run out of content. That's when I discovered the cartoon community. And Jesus Christ, where do I begin? The cartoon community basically refers to the people who make videos about, you guessed it, cartoons. These can be in the form of rants, reviews, top 10 lists, etc. The community gets a lot of flack for various reasons, with many videos being made trying to explain why they're terrible, giving them a negative perception by a lot of people. So I thought, why not go over the reasons people have for hating them, and see if the community is as bad as they all say, or if they're just overreacting for the sake of a flashy title and thumbnail. Jumping on bandwagons is something that the cartoon community is often criticized for, with the main example people using being Teen Titans Go rants.
I mean, why would a kids network produce shows that are easy to make and get high ratings? Why would they do that? Don't they know us 40-year-old people that watch these shows still care about it?
For a while it seemed like everyone under the sun was making videos where they bitched about this show, some even making multiple videos on it. This is also seen with shows like Steven Universe and before it ended, Gravity Falls. And while I do agree that there are many people who make a video on a topic solely for views and attention, but just because someone makes a video on something popular does not mean it was done for the sake of views. There's a fine line between making a video on something because you know it will get views, and making a video on something because you're passionate about it. And just because somebody makes a video about a show they're passionate about, and it just so happens to be popular at the time, doesn't mean it was made with no care, and only made for the intent of getting that sweet clout. Just as there were people who made Teen Titans Go rants for attention, there were also people making Teen Titans Go rants because they genuinely cared about the topic and wanted to share their thoughts on it. And just because they made a video on something popular doesn't mean their video should be passed off as attention seeking. The topic of rant videos is interesting, and relates to another thing the community is often criticized for. More often than not, when you see a video about a piece of media now, it'll be focused on the negative aspects, with a title like, "This thing is a cinematic disaster," or "This thing you like sucks and here's why." That's because negativity is popular. What would you rather click on? "This movie is pretty good," or "This movie is a steaming pile of shit and I want it to burn in hell"? Don't lie to me. It's also just easier to talk about why something is bad rather than why something is good. Not to mention it makes for much better entertainment value. And that's what a lot of these videos are meant to be. Entertaining. You know, most of the time. Here's a tip. You want these videos to stop being made? Stop clicking on them. People generalize it because of channels like Saberspark, Mr. Enter, and Scaff. That guy who traded his passion of YouTube pips for mediocre rant videos, who have all reached huge successes with their videos that focus more so on the negative aspects of animation. But the people making this generalization often overlook channels such as Rebel Taxi, who, while still uploads a negative review here and there, makes much more positive and informative content. But people like to ignore these channels when complaining about the community because Teen Titans Go, am I right? A point I actually agree on is that there are way too many people who, instead of reviewing the show or movie, will just go through the entire thing, stopping here and there to discuss something that happened in the scene they played. And while I know there are people who like this style of reviewing, I personally think it gets incredibly boring and predictable after a while. Not to mention it gives the videos a really bad flow. I think channels like Nintendo and Cosmodor do a good job at giving the cartoon they're talking about a general overview, and only really using examples and highlights from the film or show either for comedic purposes or to back up a point. But then there are channels like Mr. Enter and Alpha J Show, who I think make decent to good content, but most of their reviews consist of going through an episode or film beat by beat. And when you do stuff like that, it makes it much more likely that they're going to start nitpicking certain things that ultimately don't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
Hold up, is Beast Boy eating a pepperoni pizza? Pepperoni! He's been most of those animals!
But then again, here I am making a video about people who talk about cartoons on the internet, so I guess I don't really know what matters in the grand scheme of things either. And there are lots of channels who talk about more obscure stuff like Saberspark and Steve Reviews, so then it makes more sense to go into it more in depth, although that doesn't always make the content good. really don't get the complaint of using character stills. Shocking, I know. But when used right, they can be a helpful aid to portray your emotions towards what you're saying, and gives the audience something to look at if there's not much going on screen at that point in time. They're also good at giving yourself more of an identity without having to straight up use your face, which many people who make videos aren't comfortable with doing. Again, it's all about how they're used. If a person's video consists of barely any editing, with the only thing on screen being a character PNG that changes every 10 seconds, then fair, complain all you like. But other than that, I don't really see many channels that overused character stills in this community, so I don't really get where this complaint is coming from. Very recently there's been a plethora of complaints about people using character stills, and by plethora I mean one complaint. And it's that most people use the same base template of poses, mainly the dreaded arm cross. They'll draw a stick figure in 3 or 4 poses they've seen 2 to 3 people use, and act like every single person in the community uses this pose and that they're all unoriginal. It's almost like these are good ways of being expressive with a character for portraying an emotion, and each person does it in their own style. But sorry, that's my fault. I forgot people can own the rights to specific poses, and if one person does it then nobody else can. My bad. But that's not the only thing people claim to be unoriginal. In terms of personality within the cartoon community, I see people complaining about the two extremes, being that they're either overly happy or overly angry. This is another point that I think comes from people looking at a few channels in the community and basing their entire argument off that. There are many channels in the community who have their own way of talking about stuff, whether that be more laid back, more serious, as a pathetic loser, or an
incompetent fool.
Like the point about character stills, I really don't see where people are coming from when they say this, and just claiming, oh, they're either really positive or really negative is such a broad statement that ultimately means nothing. Now all this isn't me trying to claim that it's some perfect community that has no flaws, because that's far from true. There are fair reasons not to like them. For example, I feel like sometimes people can take things a little too seriously and overreact a bit, which I can understand if you're really passionate about this kind of stuff, but when it's done too much it comes off as sad and pathetic. People give Mr. Enter shit for this all the time, but either they haven't watched his newer stuff or don't care, because he's calmed down a lot as of recent.
You know, if Robin shot these two assholes, I wouldn't mind. Shoot him, please. Do us all a favor. Wow. I'm actually happy that the characters we are supposed to be rooting for are being tortured maliciously. You fail!
And as we all know, the greatest kings of all time are just spending 24/7 clearing their name and cleaning up their own mistakes.
Which leads into my point that when people seem to be giving the cartoon community shit for the most part nowadays, so many of their reasons only apply to how the community was years ago, and fail to realise that since then the community has evolved and gotten better. Like I mentioned earlier, Mr. Enter was one of, if not the most hated person in the cartoon community, but his content has been getting a lot better as of recent. It's like they just saw Mars Reviews video from almost 2 years ago and act like the community hasn't changed at all since then. Now that's not to say the entire community has evolved, but they're all individuals. A couple Lily Pete's doesn't mean the community as a whole is bad. Like I briefly mentioned in my video about the Sonic fanbase, people seem to take these few figures from years ago and treat them as an accurate representation for the community as a whole. There's always room for improvement, and in recent years they've been improving a lot, even to the point where the people who actually make these shows they're talking about have gotten in touch and shown appreciation for them. And I only see them improving more with time. Most of the people in the community seem really cool, and I'd honestly be pretty happy to be a part of it. You know, not that I want to, because I don't. I love being a commentary channel, it's great. In fact, I'm working on my new video right now. It's going to be a follow-up to my last commentary, which should be doing just fine. I'll just check the video and...
Fuck
God,
you, LS Mark. I wish you died instead of Brian. You
still
Game
like
Grumps hating
Sonic?
cuck. Hashtag don't save LS Mark.
Get back in the
Also,
closet, you
Disaster
furry
Movie is a
loser.
fucking masterpiece. You just don't understand
this
it.
is cool. I'm
Fuck
fine
you.
with this. Hey yo, Mark here. I got a quick announcement to make. This is gonna be dated in like 2 weeks, so leave now if you're watching after that, because this won't be relevant at all. I just didn't feel like making a standalone video about this, because I don't want that clogging up the channel uploads. But anyways, I'm gonna be going to Insomnia 64 in Birmingham from the 19th to the 22nd of April as a creator, so that's pretty cool. It's a gaming convention, looks like it's got a lot of fun stuff going on, so if you're gonna be there, come say hi to me, or don't. I know it's probably very short notice to announce this because the event's in like 12 days, but if it sounds like something that would interest you, then go check out the website, I guess. And yeah, that's all I really had to say. Thanks to my patrons, they're pretty rad, and thanks to you for watching this video. And I'll see you guys next time.